Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Controversial Podcast. Today, again, I'm joined by Tom McCaffrey.
Hello, nice to be here once again.
And in this episode, we'll be discussing the political state of the UK. In this episode, we're going to split it up into three different sections. The first is going to be about the voting system. Second one is going to be about the Lords and the monarchy. And the third one is going to be about public input and social aspect of UK politics.
So first of all, we would like to talk about the first past the post system in UK politics. Now, this is a system in which one does not need the majority of votes to win, they simply need more votes than their opposition. What this means is we will often, in fact, almost always get a government in power that is not supported by the majority of the people.
So the issue with this is that it creates a polarisation of politics. It means that people are more likely going to be disenfranchised, as you know, despite the party winning, they haven't got a majority of votes, and it can be seen as very unfair. Of course, in the first past the post system, when voting, you choose just one specific candidate to be your representative and representing the constituency as an MP. Now, another system that personally I think we both would prefer is the AV system. This was in a referendum not too long ago during the Cameron and Lib Dem coalition. And the AV system is where you rank candidates in order of preference. It means that there'll be a more accurate consensus and more accurately portray the most favoured candidate.
Now, this is an interesting system because it allows people to grow smaller parties that they are fond of. One of the biggest problems with the first past the post system is that a lot of people will, for example, want to vote for UKIP but fear Labour but they do not believe that UKIP has the ability to gain power. They would, as a result, they would much prefer the Conservative Party to win over the Labour Party, so they would vote Labour rather than...
Yeah, so this is called strategic voting, where you vote on your opinion on how well they'll get into power, and you choose a more centralised party with a more centralised political compass, and that changes politics so that smaller parties that have more of a niche political opinion and compass end up being dragged aside. Like the Green Party, most people agree with quite a lot of their principles. However, they don't gain a lot of power due to people thinking that they won't progress. And as you said, that's the same with UKIP and even the Liberal Democrats nowadays. Personally, I think one of the core issues with the voting system is how constituencies work. As at the moment, there are wasted votes. So if you vote for a niche party in a safe seat for, say, the Conservatives here in Folkestone, your vote is nigh on meaningless and impossible to contribute to the party's overall success. That means that, for example, previously, Labour got more votes, however lost due to the lack of seats. This means that overall in the country, Labour was preferred. However, there still ended up being a Conservative government.
Continuing on that, in the 2016 general election, the UK Independence Party got over 4 million votes, which is a large amount of the UK population. However, they only achieved one seat as a result of the constituency system.
Yeah. Personally, I think a way to address this would be to have votes more centralised. So all the votes contribute towards the head of state, the executive. However, the constituency still maintains seats. So seats don't directly relate to who's head of state and the cabinet and the executive, which is closer to the American system. However, it will open up more opportunities for smaller parties, and more of a consensus and it would be more accurate of the general population's opinion on politicians.
I would agree. This would also go further to, in some ways, eliminate the safe seats that have occurred in a few constituencies around the country. For example, close to us in the constituency of Folkestone and Hythe, there has never been any leader that other than the Conservative Party. As a result, a vote for anyone other than a Conservative in that constituency is effectively meaningless.
Indeed. And the issue with this system is that there needs to be a greater representation of the public. And the good thing about my proposed idea was that it would also create a separation between the legislative and the executive, meaning that there'll be more area for scrutiny to the government.
So the next thing we wanted to talk about was the House of Lords and the monarch. Specifically, what place do these hold in a modern day democracy?
Indeed, a monarchy may seem very old hat, very ancient and almost irrelevant and outdated in this modern society, which to a degree I would say it is, but the way that the UK has overcome this is by transitioning the role of the monarch into more of a ceremonious role and restricting the powers. Theoretically, the monarch has the power to make decisions. However, if Queen Elizabeth II tried to exercise her powers, there would be uproar and it would do more damage to her than good. An example of a more active and almost dictating monarchy would be that of Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries where their monarch is not only the head of state but the main driving force in their politics. And it almost separates the people from political decisions and the direction of the country, which is why our system of a monarch under checks with very little power creates a better representation of the people within the country.
So UK politics involving the Queen, involving the monarch in fact, dates quite far back. It's got a long history. Originally it was the Magna Carta signed by King John in 1215 that started the process off. It gave a little bit more power to the lords of the land, and it also made sure that the monarch was subject to checks and balances under the law.
Another key milestone in separating the powers of the monarch in UK democracy was the movement that Simon de Montfort started, as he created the constituency situation and made the first assembly of representatives. That was in 1264 when the barons had a revolt against the king further abusing his powers. In addition, the Lords itself is almost similar to how we used to view the monarch back in the day. They are taking over that ancient sort of idea, and they act in quite an old-fashioned way. They're viewed as an older part of UK democracy that, in fact, isn't very democratic. These are unelected individuals impacting our laws.
This antiquated nature of the Lord has driven a lot of people to seek for alterations in the system that we have. This has in turn led to a few Lords Reforms Acts such as 1999 and 19. These have limited the powers of the Lords as well as limiting their number and what they actually do in politics.
Yeah, exactly. For example, one of the key points was the elimination of hereditary peers. This was under the New Labour movement of Tony Blair.
Another thing that was changed by these Lords Reforms Act was the dominance of the Conservative Party within the Lords. Now, much like regular MPs, the Lords do follow particular parties, though they aren't quite as stringent. And for many years leading up to 1999, the Conservative Party, had a definite majority in the Lords, which a lot of people could consider undemocratic, because even if the Labour Party is in power, you have a strong conservative bias later down the legislative process.
Yeah, and currently with how Lords are seen as in the political system, the House of Lords is viewed as a think again sort of chamber with no... they can't really enforce so much the changing of laws and can't delay them beyond a certain time frame. They've significantly lost their power. They're more of a expert view on laws at the current state of the political system. So in respect of the Lords of Monarchy, we're just going to discuss if we should keep them or not. Are they useful? Are they worth it? What are their place? What's your opinion?
In terms of the Lords, I would say they are worth it, but I view more changes do need to be made. For example, though the hereditary peers have been greatly reduced, there are still almost 100 of them, which I think should be replaced with experts who are picked for merit and achievements that they have made. In terms of the Queen, I believe she has limited enough power. She's almost like a mascot for our country. Her roles are purely ceremonial, thus she doesn't really impede the legislative process.
Yeah, and on the point about the Lords, I would say, like you said, the professionals should... there should be more professionals than just random people that sit in the chamber almost today. They're irrelevant to the current situation. And I think that there should be like some sort of electing process in which key sectors within the UK can elect for a certain individual on merit to sit in the House of Lords. That would be more democratic and will still continue the professionalised manner of the Lords. So I think that would be a great amendment to actually come out of this.
If I could provide a counter-argument to that, I would say, however, that providing an elected aspect to the Lords does create some problems with questioning who is now the dominant party. As it stands, of course, the elected Commons have a lot more power than the Lords, but if we begin to elect Lords, will that in turn give them more power?
Yeah, I mean, at the current situation, the large majority of the Lords is built up of past MPs or politicians, and that can create a future for MPs after they won't be considered for re-election as they get older. Adds more job security, so good point. Okay, now we're going to focus on more the social aspects of democracy in the UK political system, and we're really going to home in on participation and how it's changed throughout the years. For example, in the past it was more traditional and still is to a certain extent. This includes voting and lobbying. So lobbying is when traditionally you'd stay in the lobby and you'd talk to your MP and discuss via that. And voting is, of course, during general elections or referendums.
Over time, however, this has shifted somewhat to what a lot of people would consider modern democracy. This involves a more pluralist system in which a large number of different pressure groups and small groups that vote on a specific issue or campaign for a different issue will push forward their certain ideals. This is a rather large aspect of modern democracy that can be seen, for example, in Extinction Rebellion and Greenpeace and a lot of other places like that. On top of this, with the rise of social media, there has been a lot more of what a lot of people have dubbed slacktivism, in which you will see a political post on your Facebook feed and share it. And while this is to an extent political participation, the reason it is called slacktivism is that's my thing for today. I've participated in politics for today, I don't have to do it anymore, which can be rather detrimental.
Yeah, so exactly. With the